After the presentation, they can also answer any questions you might have for them. To our attendees, if you have any questions at any point during the talk, please feel free to send them through the Q&A feature. I will also link an interest form in the chat if you want to put your contact details to be forwarded to the Hopkins University. Just scroll down to the appropriate day and you should see their name and a link to the form. To our speakers, at the end of your information session, please feel free to scroll through the questions in the Q&A and answer those you wish to. So without further ado, here's Maria Theresa Foster.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me and the Camp Philippines team. I'm very excited to be here again this year, and thank you all for staying up so late to spend a few minutes or an hour with me learning a little bit more about my community here at Hopkins. My name is Maria Teresa Foster, and I am one of our assistant directors of admissions here at Johns Hopkins, and I'm a member of our international team. And so I'm the member of our admissions committee who represents students, counselors, and communities from the Philippines. So again, I'm so grateful to be connecting with you all. And again, thanks for staying up. I know it's really late over there. And so at this time, I'm going to encourage you guys, if you are able in the chat, to share your name and academic interests, or something that you're really curious to learn a little bit more about Johns Hopkins before we dive into our session. So if you're able, that would be great to share, but no worries if not, and feel free to put that in the chat. Oh, thank you so much for opening that. I really appreciate that, everyone on the Camp Philippines team. I'm always curious to hear more about student interests and the things that they're the most curious about, because I like being a resource in any way. And so thank you guys for sharing with me and taking the time to do that. Ooh, I'm seeing a little bit of Madeline saying medicine. We have a couple students noting some interest in environmental engineering, chemistry. I love the little hearts right there. Thank you so much. So it's so great that y'all are already thinking about those things that you may be interested in. I'm seeing some interest in the US system, foreign affairs, neuroscience and the medical sciences and the experiences there. Oh, international relations and political science. Wonderful. Oh, I'm seeing BME, interested in business. Fantastic. All of y'all are great. Thank you guys so much for sharing that. And I'm so excited to share more about my community here at Hopkins with all of y'all. Sociology game, yes, so many social science students, so many great natural sciences and engineering, humanities. We'd love to see it. And one of my favorite things about Hopkins is that, you know, students are really able to find community both academically and socially. And so I'm excited to share a little bit more as we dive in. And so at this time, I am going to share my screen with y'all to just a quick PowerPoint. And as mentioned in the beginning, we'll reserve some time towards the end for any Q&A. So definitely utilize the Q&A feature to share questions. And I'll also share my email at the end of our session. So if y'all have any questions or any ways that I can be a resource, I'd be very happy to do so. So as we think about Hopkins, some things to know about our community is that we were founded in 1876 as the first research university in the United States. And so we were really founded on this philosophy of creating new knowledge for the world and really investing in our students in their creation and expansion of their own intellectual curiosities. And so as we think about our institutional identity, we really have our institutional identity and the pillars of the Hopkins experience. The Hopkins experience being academic freedom and flexibility, diversity of thought, and support for new ideas. And so for our students, that academic flexibility first comes into play when they're actually going through the application process. So unless you are applying to our biomedical engineering major, you aren't applying into a particular major or program. And so if you have, I know a couple students mentioned BME, So I'll definitely can touch on that in the Q&A. But for the majority of our students, they come into Hopkins undecided. And so they get to really connect with our campus community through a variety of different academic backgrounds and perspectives. But our curriculum is based in the liberal arts. So regardless of your majors, your minors, and all of those interests that you have, you would take classes in 5 broad academic areas. And so it's important to us that our students not only become more holistic and inclusive thinkers through the liberal arts philosophy, but also what we have found is it enables our students to find another interest that they have. So I know for one of our students, Sierra, she came into Hopkins really wanting to focus in either neuroscience or cognitive science, but really found that she wanted to pursue music cognition. And so she ended up picking up a music minor because she was able to take a really engaging class that was taught through our Peabody Conservatory of Music that met one of her humanities requirements. And so being able to really explore different academic interests has really enabled our students to craft a 4-year schedule that aligns with their interests, with their passions, and really their goals for after graduation. And so it's quite common for our students to have double majors and multiple minors between our 2 undergraduate schools. So if you're a student who's interested in environmental engineering and pairing that with writing seminars, or one of the common ones that we see a lot is entrepreneurship and biomedical engineering or mechanical engineering. And so there's a lot of different combinations that students will do because of that flexibility that they have. And so really collaborating with your peers is a huge part of the Hopkins experience, not only because of our small classroom size. And so our average class size is around 23 students. So we have a total undergraduate population of around 5,400. So you're really able to dig deeply into the materials that you're learning in class. When you're having case studies, when you're in lab, you're able to really collaborate with your peers, but also your faculty who are there to support you. And so you first start engaging with our faculty your first year through not only your first year advising program that really helps you pick those courses and craft that curriculum, but also they're there to help you find undergraduate research and help you dig more deeply into those subjects at hand. And so, as I mentioned, that academic flexibility and that opportunity to have support as you navigate the curriculum and the different opportunities and experiences at Hopkins really enables you to find those majors, those minors, and those experiences that best match your interests that you do have. So as you all can see, diversity of thought, not only in our classrooms, is something that's really important because of the liberal arts philosophy, where all of our students will be taking classes across our 2 undergraduate schools. And so I know in the chat, so many of you all mentioned interest in engineering and the humanities and the social sciences, the natural sciences, and we have around a third in each one of those categories here at Hopkins. And so you're really able to connect with students from a variety of different academic backgrounds to prepare you for when you are working in medicine, working with folks in various fields, where you are working in law or business, connecting with folks that hold different academic backgrounds. But the Hopkins environment really values global citizenship. And so here on our campus, we have folks from all 50 states here in the United States, from 80 countries. And so we really want global perspectives and identities represented on our campus, in our classrooms, and in our community. And so that commitment to making sure that our students and our student community represents those global perspectives is something that we really value because we really believe that it leads to larger impacts on the world, deeper collaboration, and more development of the whole student that really leads to not only the student becoming more well-rounded, but also them leading to broader impacts. And so the third pillar of our institutional identity is something that we call support for new ideas. And what I mean by that is that it really goes back to our history as the first research university in the United States. And so research is very much at the core of the Hopkins experience. I talked a little bit about exploration through your majors and your minors and really pairing those together, but we also believe that exploration happens outside of the classroom. And so while over a third of our students will have an additional global experience through studying abroad, we see around 85% of our students doing at least one internship. Around 80% of our Hopkins undergraduate students will conduct at least one research program during their time here. And so annually, our Hopkins institution and community ensures that Hopkins undergraduate students have access to those opportunities. And so the way that we invest in that is through 2.56 billion annually in research investment. And so that means that Hopkins students, that research is happening all across the university. And so as a Hopkins undergraduate, you have first access to research experiences at our School of Medicine, our Bloomberg School of Public Health, our School of Advanced International Studies that has 3 global campuses, to our Carey School of Business, our Applied Physics Lab, and that's just scraping the surface. And so as we help our students find those opportunities, we actually have a whole resource on campus that is devoted just for students accessing those opportunities. And so my colleagues in our Office of Undergraduate Research, or OUR, works one-on-one with students to help them identify research opportunities, help them find institutional funding. So we have a couple different grant programs just for undergraduate students. So some that I would encourage you to look into are the PURA grant and the Aspire grant, which is a completely Hopkins supported undergraduate research program where you would receive one-on-one faculty mentorship all 4 years or however long your research project is, to ensure that our students are creating that new knowledge and really expanding their academic interests. And so we have OUR to support our students and find their research opportunities. But because you get to collaborate so closely with your faculty, there are so many opportunities to connect with them for research opportunities. So I know one of our students, Axel, he did a double major in English and psychology as a student here. And he did research with one of his professors in the psychology department. Simply by after class, he went up to one of his professors and was like, Dr. Jones, today's conversation, I really enjoyed it. Could I pick your brain about this topic that we talked about in class? And that curiosity that he shared really inspired his professor to say, hey, I'd really like that perspective on my research team. And so professors are really eager to have undergraduate students on their research teams as they're creating not only new intellectual property, but papers getting published for that, and really, again, creating that new knowledge for the world. And so for our undergraduate students, that exploration and support for undergraduates' ideas is something that we really value, and we want our students to continue to develop their intellectual interests. And so development of the whole person is something that we really value here through that academic freedom, the diversity of thought, and the support for new ideas. But we also know that for our students, learning just doesn't stay within the classroom or within classroom conversations, but we really want our students to not only show initiative, but also make an impact in the spaces that they are part of. And so our home here in Baltimore, our Homewood Campus, are definitely spaces where our students are making that impact. So I wanted to share a little bit more about my home here in Baltimore. And so I am coming to you live from Baltimore City. I live about a 10-minute walk or so from our campus, and our home here in Baltimore not only has a really distinct location, but we have a very distinct community here. And so Baltimore, Maryland is located in the mid-Atlantic of the United States. We're about an hour north of Washington, D.C., which is our capital. We're about 2 hours south of Philadelphia and around 3.5 hours from New York City. And so for undergraduate students, they leverage that not only for pre-professional opportunities, such as internships and job opportunities, but it really enables our students to get anywhere really in the United States. And so when you fly into Baltimore, we are located near 3 international airports. So Baltimore Washington International, Dulles and Reagan International Airport are all within an hour or so, with BWI being around a 20-minute drive from our campus. And so there's a ton of ways for you to access the city, and there's a ton of ways for you to explore other US cities as well. But Baltimore is a really unique place because we're home to 200 plus unique neighborhoods, and each one has its own unique feel, its own unique vibe to it. And so our Homewood campus is located in the northern part of Baltimore City. So you can see it on the map. It says Homewood, it has like a little steeple, but some other spaces where our students are making that impact and exploring are places like the Inner Harbor area, that you may have seen in media and television, on social media. It's a downtown area where there's water, there's a lot of professional sports teams, a lot of museums, to our medical campus, which is about a 10-minute shuttle ride away. And so we provide free transportation across the city for our students and run specific routes to our graduate campuses like the medical school, our Carey School of Business, our Peabody Institute for Music. But many of our students too will go into Mount Vernon, which is about a 7-minute shuttle ride, which is our arts district, to go to free poetry slams, are some of the most well-known art museums in the United States are located there. So there's a lot of different ways to get involved. There's a ton of different international cuisines and restaurants that we have here in the city. So it's a great place to explore. It's a great place to be a young person. But as I mentioned, our Homewood campus is really the heartbeat of our undergraduate experience. And so we've got that 5,300 undergraduate students who are not only showing initiative through their clubs, but they're also making an impact on our community on campus, but also within our community here in Baltimore. And so for our students, some things to know is that we are a residential campus. So you would live on campus for your first 2 years, and then you have the opportunity to live off campus your last 2 years. And we have support from our residential life office and our Office of Off-Campus Living to really support students as they make that transition off campus. But for our students, we have over 350 plus student organizations that range from identity and religious-based organizations to pre-professional programming like our Society of Women Engineers, to Mock Trial, Model UN, to social innovation clubs, to clubs focused on entrepreneurship, to athletic organizations, and so many others as well. And so there's a ton of ways for students to really get plugged into community very early on. But another hub for student engagement is our Center for Social Concern. And so as I mentioned, Baltimore really plays a pivotal role in our students' experiences, because you're just not a citizen of our campus community and you're just not a Blue Jay. You're also a citizen of Baltimore. And so our students really get involved in volunteering and social impact. So whether it's collaborating with entrepreneurs in the Baltimore area through our social innovation lab, so really thinking about ways that organizations can utilize business strategies and practices to support entrepreneurship and social innovation and sustainable business in Baltimore, to education access, to healthcare access and food security. So our Center for Social Concern works with students and community leaders to facilitate that growth in the city, to not only collaborate and partner, but for our students, it really helps them think and listen and also really be that citizen of Baltimore. And so I've talked a lot about not only our institutional identity, our home here in Baltimore, the ways that our students are showing initiative, but also making an impact. I share those things with you to help you better understand, that Hopkins experience and who may be a great match for Hopkins. But I wanted to share too some ways that we support students not only during their time at Hopkins, but also as they think towards their life after Hopkins. And so as a Hopkins undergraduate student, as you're navigating all those decisions around courses and clubs and internships and doing research, you have support along the way, not only from your academic advisors, but also from this really robust resource that we have called our Life Design Lab. And so our Life Design Lab is a resource on campus that really goes beyond the offerings of our traditional career center to really work one-on-one with students to help them identify career paths, professional passions that they may have. And so they would work one-on-one with you and say, hey, Maria, I know you're a mechanical engineering major, you're doubling with German, you really love the robotics club, you can turn this into a career. And let's talk to this alum in San Diego who's really doing great work in this space as well. And so really connecting students to those opportunities is a core part of their role, but also they're there to help you think very holistically and inclusively about career opportunities in that path that you may be interested in. They have things like career academies and alumni networking opportunities to connect students to our robust alumni network. Not only does our Life Design Lab work with students for all 4 years and beyond, but they partner closely with our pre-professional advising program. So I saw in the chat so many of y'all noted an interest in medicine and graduate school, law. And so our pre-professional advising office works with all of our students to help them prepare for graduate school success. And so we don't have pre-med or pre-law as a major here or majors here. Rather, they are tracks. So you can select any of those 50 plus majors and still be preparing for medical school success, still be preparing for graduate school success, because you would have a separate academic advisor to ensure that you're taking the appropriate classes to prepare for those graduate school exams and to be competitive in that graduate school process. Our admissions rate to U.S. medical schools, the first time that students apply is 80% and then 97% for law school admission. So as you can see, our students, that opportunity to be in a collaborative and interdisciplinary liberal arts environment, an environment where you're making an impact, really prepares our students for employment, but also graduate school success. And so any questions, I know that was really quick around those resources, definitely share those with me in the Q&A. And before we get into more dates and deadlines and financial aid pieces, I did want to share some information regarding how we review applications and how does our team here at Johns Hopkins really identify the students that are going to be the best match. And so here at Hopkins, we do practice holistic application review. And so we'll be looking at every single part of your application individually and holistically. So thinking about every single part of that application and within the context of the times that the student is living in, the context of their lived experiences, the context of the community, and really the context of the times too, especially over the past few years with the pandemic and the impacts that it's had on students and communities. And so as we think through those things at Hopkins specifically, we think about holistic review through 3 different lenses. And those lenses are academic character, impact and initiative, and overall match. And so for academic character, kind of breaking that down a little bit, really what it means to us is how a student has invested in their individual intellectual interests. And so we'll be thinking about how that student has shown in their application academic interests. How have they shown academic strength? So we're going to be looking at things like your transcript. How have you utilized rigorous courses that are available to you? Were you leveraging honors courses, AP courses, IB courses, or whatever courses are available at your place of learning? How have you challenged yourself and how well have you done in those courses? We'll be thinking about letters of recommendation. So at Hopkins, we do require 3 letters of recommendation, one from a guidance counselor or an adult who acts as a guidance counselor at your school, and 2 teacher letters of recommendation. And so they really help our committee better understand a student's not only intellectual curiosities and what kind of student they are, but also what kind of community member they are. Are they someone who's collaborative? Are they a leader in the classroom? Are they someone who asks questions? And so they can really give us some great insight into who a student is. The next piece of the application that could be a part of your application is testing. And so Hopkins has extended our test optional policy for the next 5 years. And so if you were unable to test safely or testing was canceled in your region, no worries. We are truly a test optional institution for all of our scholarship opportunities. All of our test optional applicants are fully considered as well. And so there isn't a disadvantage there. So if you have testing that you believe reflects your academic abilities, you may submit that, and that can be a part of the conversation, but there would never be one piece of the application that would make or break. And so work with those you trust, your mentors, your parents, your guardians, your teachers, to determine which application path may be the best for you. The second piece is impact and initiative. And so we're really going to be thinking about how students have invested in the communities that they're a part of. And so my pro tip to you all is be really inclusive with what you share with us. So if you engage in any family responsibilities, cultural or religious practices, if you spend a lot of time commuting back and forth between different extracurricular experiences, or in your free time, you're teaching yourself guitar, those are all things that you can share in your college application, and they can really help our committee better understand not only what interests do you have, what passions do you have, but what are some spaces you could have an impact at Hopkins. And so that impact and initiative piece really helps us identify students who will really be happy here as well. As I mentioned, our students are very active on our campus, within our home here in Baltimore. And so it can really help us understand your impacts and your initiatives. The last piece is overall match. This is the part of the application where all the pieces not only come together, but it's really where we're going to be thinking about your essays more specifically. And so for Hopkins, you're going to write 2 essays. One will be your common application or your Coalition for College application that will go to all the US colleges and universities that you're applying to. But we do have a Johns Hopkins supplemental essay. And so we are really utilizing these tools to not only hear directly from you about your interests, the experiences that you've had, but that supplemental essay really helps us hear directly from you about pieces of your identity, your community, your experiences, and what you hope to get out of the Hopkins experience. And so the prompt is very open-ended, and our team is really intentional with that because we want it to be a space where you can share more about yourself and share something new that we may not see in other parts of the application. And so as we holistically review applicants, that process is really going to be based in a student's academic character, their impact and initiative, and then their overall match for our community. And so as you're thinking about Hopkins, some dates and deadlines to keep in mind are for students are early decision 1 and 2, and then regular decision. So for students, early decision at Johns Hopkins is going to be a binding commitment. So it's a time where if you're seeing Hopkins really emerge as that best match school for you academically, socially, and financially, and you're having conversations with your parents, your teachers, those folks in your support system, and you're like, Hopkins really seems like the place for me. Early decision can really be a great option because it's the first time that a student would be considered for a spot in our highly competitive class. And it's the only time during our admissions review when all the seats in the class are open for consideration. And so by the time we get to our regular decision round that is non-binding, we have our seats in the class already filled by early decision candidates. However, we know that every student is on their own journey. And so we have regular decision there for folks that want to apply to Hopkins and all those other schools that they're curious about. As you are thinking through which round may be the best for you, some things to keep in mind around financial aid. Some dates and deadlines are on your screen now, but I wanted to share that here at Hopkins, we are very intentional with wanting to build a global community. And so we practice this investment to our community through robust financial aid programming. So for US citizens, US permanent residents, and certain eligible populations, we do practice need-blind admissions. However, for international citizens, we do practice a need-aware admissions process. However, those conversations are really happening towards the end of our process once we've identified the students that we really feel are going to be the best match for Hopkins. And the reason why we do that is to not only ensure that we can support that student, but they can also make the most of their Hopkins experiences without the burden of debt. And so for our students who are admitted, regardless of their citizenship status, we guarantee to meet 100% of demonstrated need. And so if you are receiving financial aid from Johns Hopkins, student loans will not be a part of your financial aid award. And so your financial aid will be comprised of things like scholarship opportunities, work study opportunities, but student loans would not be a part of your financial aid award. And so if you have any questions about financial aid at Hopkins or merit-based scholarships, I can talk a little bit more about scholarships in our Q&A feature. And then I can also share some contact information for my colleagues in our student financial services who work the most directly with need-based financial aid and everything like that. And so at this time, I can see that folks are already sharing their questions and their curiosities with us in the Q&A. And so I'm excited to dive right in. So I'm seeing some questions around scholarships already. So it's great that y'all are already thinking about that. So I'm seeing a question in regards to scholarships and full ride scholarships. And so for students, we do offer merit-based scholarship opportunities. And so really what that process looks like is all of our students would be automatically considered for those scholarship opportunities that we have here. And so it's not a separate application that a student would have to fill out. They are very competitive, as you would imagine. However, we really invest in our need-based financial aid. And so if you're a student who is curious about need-based financial aid, definitely don't hesitate to reach out to our team, because we can provide some resources and tools for our students that do receive financial aid. As I mentioned, we do guarantee to meet 100% of that demonstrated need. So our students, including our international citizens, are graduating without debt as well. A great question. I see a question in regards to the living situation and Baltimore as a whole. So I'd love to connect about both of those. The first around our living situation. So as I mentioned, at Hopkins, our students would live on campus for their first 2 years. And so for our students, it's a really exciting time because not only are you living in the residential halls, you're living on campus, you're really forming your community. And so our students are living in apartment and suite style housing their second year. Some first year students live in apartment and suite style housing, but most of our students would live in a traditional residential style residential hall where you are living with other first year students. There's some upperclassmen there called resident assistants who are there to help you make that transition into college, into the community, and who are really there as a great mentor and a great resource as you live with other college students and make that transition into the college environment. Then for your junior and your senior year, or your third and fourth years, our students would live off campus. And so around 98% of our students live within 3 blocks of campus. And so as you're making that transition off campus, our Office of Off-Campus Living works very closely with students to help them not only find housing, but also they have identified certain leasing offices or neighborhoods where we know students live quite frequently, and or spaces we know students and landlords work really well together. Excuse me. And so our Office of Off-Campus Living really facilitates that process and supports our students through that. So not only finding housing, but let's say it's a really hot summer day and your air conditioning isn't working, or though something's happening and you need some additional support at your off-campus housing, those experts and those advisors, while you're in class or while you're doing what you need to for your own responsibilities, will connect with the landlord and support students as they navigate those different things there. We do run free transportation throughout the city. So not only if you're exploring a new restaurant or going to a free concert, but we also run transportation across different off-campus housing places. So places like the Academy, Hopkins House, and a couple other apartment complexes where we know a lot of students live. We'll run transportation regularly throughout the day and into the evening, so students can easily hop on a shuttle as they get into their classes and extracurriculars and things like that. Which leads me into the next question that I see here around Baltimore and safety. So Baltimore, like any other city environment, it's important for students to practice good skills. And so putting in your AirPods, your headphones with we early, words are hard, y'all. I need to finish my coffee. It's still a little early here, but practicing good city skills is always important. But Hopkins prepares students to navigate any kind of city environment, because we do welcome students from all across the globe, from all across different experiences. So before I moved to Baltimore, I'm from a really small town here in the United States that is about 2 hours away from Baltimore. So I'd never been to Baltimore before, but part of our orientation is that we work in small groups with your first year mentor and in one of our safety guards throughout campus, and to say, hey, here's a blue light on campus for if you're not feeling safe, you can press this button and a security officer will show up in less than 60 seconds. Or here's a resource on campus that we utilize for students that maybe were out late with their friends going to a restaurant and got caught up in conversation and they don't want to walk back because it's snowing outside, or they would prefer to have a buddy when they walk back. Connecting students to different resources that they know they can leverage when they're in those situations and remaining proactive is something that Hopkins does to ensure all of our students feel very safe. However, the city of Baltimore is a space where we want our students to explore. As I said, I live here in the city of Baltimore. I'm about a 10-minute walk from our campus. I live in the neighborhood of Hamden, which is very much a young environment. Most folks are, I would say, under the age of 30, 35 or so. So it's a very vibrant environment. We have a lot of mom and pop restaurants, a lot of unique like vintage stores and things like that. And so as our students explore the city, it's important to us that they know the resources, but Baltimore is a safe place to be. I think it's just important to utilize those best practices for when you are living in a city and things like that as well. It's a great question. I am seeing some questions around some application requirements in regards to the TOEFL, Duolingo. So here at Hopkins, we don't require the TOEFL or Duolingo as part of our admissions process. You can submit that to us as part of a supplemental piece of your application, but it's not required. And in regards to IB, so for our students here, we don't have a required IB composite exam, a score or exam scores to be competitive for admission or to be admitted to the university. I would say that our students that are really successful here are students that are definitely utilizing those higher level courses that are available to them and doing well in those courses. And so as you think about your application for Hopkins and things like that, work with your counselors, your teachers, those mentors that you do have to identify, those higher level courses that best match your interests and those goals that you have as well. And so no requirements for school for scores or courses there as well. I'm seeing a question in regards to early decision and the tuition or any supplemental fees. And so for a student who is curious about early decision and really has identified Hopkins as that best match school and would like to learn a little bit more about tuition support, I'll put a link in the chat right now in regards to my colleagues at our Student Financial Services. And so our Student Financial Services, they have folks in that office that specifically work with prospective students, their families, to help them identify, even before they apply, different packages that they may receive from Johns Hopkins so they can make an informed decision about applying early decision or regular decision. And so as I mentioned, early decision is really going to be that best option for students as they think through, which round could be the best, as it's the time where we have the most flexibility with our seats and a lot of other things. So I'll share that in the chat now. So this is their financial aid website that goes over some additional resources, and you can find all of their contact information on here as well. So I'll put that in our chat now. Fantastic. On-campus jobs. So our Office of International Students works really closely with our international students to ensure that they have employment opportunities on our campus and also pre-professional opportunities outside of our campus as well. And so we do have on-campus jobs available for our students, and our advisors in OIS work really closely with different advising departments, with other employment opportunities on our campus to ensure that our students are gaining those experiences and having access to those experiences as well. So that is something that is a part of the Hopkins experience for our international citizens as well. I see some questions in regards to professor relationships and international backgrounds. And so in my time here at Hopkins, as I've worked with especially international citizens, although I don't know the experience of being in the classroom with that international identity, what I have heard from the students that I do work closely with is that the professors are excited to have international students in their classrooms to not only bring that global perspective and those global experiences, but our international student community here is really well supported by other students, but also faculty whenever we're hosting an event on campus. So one of the big traditions that we have on campus is our culture show. And so our culture show is a time where it's usually in the fall semester, With COVID, things have been a little bit different because we wanted to hold it in person. So this year is in the spring. Nevertheless, it's a time where all of our identity-based organizations either share a food item or have a cultural performance based in something of their tradition and their identity. And so when you go there, not only do you see a ton of students, you see a ton of staff members, but also faculty. And so from what I have experienced and from what I've seen and what I've heard from our international students, it's definitely one that is supportive and collaborative as well. I'm seeing some questions in regards to preparation for medical school. And so for our students that are curious about pursuing medicine after their time at Hopkins, we have a track called our pre-professional advising office. So you could choose any of those 52 majors. You could do mechanical engineering, biomedical, history, writing seminars, language, and then still be preparing for pre-medical success through being a part of that advising program, where you would have a separate advisor to not only ensure that you're taking appropriate courses to prepare for the MCAT and graduate school exams, but also you're having the research experiences, the job shadowing opportunities within the Hopkins network and beyond to be a competitive candidate for the medical school application process. And so that office does work with all of our students, including our international students as well. I'm seeing some questions in regards to apply with a K-12 diploma. So here at Hopkins, our students that are applying for our undergraduate experience, we welcome and encourage folks from all different kinds of learning environments to apply as well. And so for students that are interested in the undergraduate, the K-12 diploma and all those different diplomas are welcome. I'm seeing a question in here about the name of our school impacting the application. And so as our admissions committee is making decisions on which students are really going to be the best match for Hopkins, we're really going to be considering them within the context of their unique experience. So their experience within their community, within the times that they're living in, within the place in the world where they live, within the context of the school environment that they're a part of. And so those contextual features help us make an informed decision and a context-based decision around, is the student a great match for Hopkins? I'm seeing another question in regards to research competitions to win various scholarships to Johns Hopkins. So for students that are pursuing research like I said, I need to finish my coffee today, but competitions, we encourage students to connect with us around in their application around any impact that they're having with competitions, with research, with really anything that they do when they're physically not doing their schoolwork. And so as you craft your application, really, as I mentioned, being inclusive with what you share with us can help us better understand your impacts and your competitiveness in the pool. So again, be inclusive and holistic with what you share with us at Hopkins. I'm seeing a question in regards to med focused. Oh, where'd it go? Oh, maybe it's in the answer. All right. I believe there was a question in here about med-based opportunities. Oh, here it is. Med focused opportunities available for high school students hoping to gain experiences at Hopkins. Oh, thank you for typing that in the chat, team Camp Philippines. For us at Hopkins, we specifically work with students that are making that transition into the college environment. And so our colleagues across different departments here at Hopkins do run a couple different programs for students. I know every year that it does change through our Center for Talented Youth. And so I encourage y'all to connect with my colleagues in CTY / our summer programs to learn a little bit more about ways you can continue to demonstrate academic character over the summer and really hone in on those other interests that you do have. So Center for CTY, our center, CTY and our summer programs are the best places you can go there. And then I'm seeing a question in regards to that test optional piece. How do we apply to Hopkins without our SAT scores? That's a great question. So for folks that were unable to test or testing was canceled in their part of the world, or that test score just doesn't represent the student's strong academic abilities, they have the option to apply without testing. And so what you would do is when you fill out your application, it's literally a box that you check on the application that would indicate that you don't want test scores considered in the review of your application. And so it's as simple as that as you think through that. And as for our students that do apply without testing, our students are not at any disadvantage for submitting testing or not submitting testing. And so again, it's going to go back to that individual holistic review where it's every single individual student within the context of their lived experiences, the context of the times that they're living in, the context of their community as well. I'm seeing the question in regards to the application, when does it open for Hopkins? So our common application will open August the 1st. So you can apply to Hopkins on the common application or the Coalition for College application. And both of those open the first week in August. As long as you get your materials in by that deadline for early decision 1 at November 1st, early decision 2, which is right around that first week in January, and then regular decision is the same date as well, is what will be important. I'm seeing a question in regards to admissions fees. And so for students, all of that information can be found on our website. However, if at any point during your college search process that the application fee presents a challenge, connect with my colleagues at Intel Help, or you can connect with me. And for folks, if that presents a challenge, your guidance counselor, the person who acts as your guidance counselor, can connect with our team on some next steps. All right, let's see. Also, shout out to Camp Philippines team for helping me manage the Q&A, and for all of y'all for sharing so many great questions with me today. I'm seeing a question in regards to class of 24, will application date be in January 24? So for students that are going through the application journey now, we encourage students to submit their application the year before they choose to enroll. So what I mean by that is if you are hoping to enroll next fall, so in the September of 2023, you would apply this fall for your admissions acceptance and your admissions decision. I'm seeing some great questions for internships for international high school students at Johns Hopkins. And so here at Hopkins, unfortunately, that is something that is run outside of our office. But I know, as I mentioned, our summer programs office does work really closely with students all across the globe to provide some great opportunities for courses and academic enrichment. And so although that is something run out of not run from our office, I recommend CTY and our summer programs office for some great next steps. I'm seeing a question in regards to courses and some next steps around what we do offer at Hopkins. I'm going to put in our chat a great link to our majors and minors, so you can get a pretty strong look at which not only academic departments are available here at Hopkins, but which majors and minor opportunities. But one of the best things about being a Hopkins student is that academic flexibility. And so you have the breadth and the depth of both of our undergraduate schools. So our Krieger School of Arts and Sciences and our Whiting School of Engineering to really craft a curriculum that makes the most sense for you. So let's say you're a student who is really interested in sociology, and you are particularly curious about taking more quantitative classes because you're doing a lot of statistical analysis and regression models, you can take additional courses that will lead to your final graduation requirements through how open that distribution credit system is. And so, for example, for that sociology student, they would still take classes in 5 broad academic areas within the humanities, the social sciences, engineering, the natural sciences, and quantitative studies. But within each one of those academic areas, any of our students can specifically select the courses that make the most sense. So I know for a lot of our students that are interested in the medical field, they'll take a bioethics course through our philosophy department to fulfill some of their humanities requirements, because as a doctor, bioethics and ethics is going to be a huge part of your job. And so that's a course that our students can actively elect into. So all of that to say, there's a lot of freedom, there's a lot of flexibility, but I'll put that link in the chat now so y'all can get a little sampling of what that does look like here at Hopkins. So I'll do that right now. But no, that's a good question. So this link shares a little bit more about those programs, as I mentioned. All right, I'm seeing a question about transferring to Hopkins. So we do offer a transfer admissions deadline at Hopkins. It's usually due March the 1st. And so after you've graduated from your place of learning and you do a year or two of a university at another institution and are curious about Hopkins, we do offer that for all of our students. However, if you are a student who's interested in financial aid and you are an international citizen, we are unable to offer financial aid for our transfer students. However, if you have any questions about the transfer application process, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll also drop my email in the chat now, and I can be happy to connect you to any of the members of our transfer team specifically. Let's see here. I see a question in regards to Hopkins. It says, would you say Hopkins is stronger in STEM subjects? I would say that here at Hopkins, we were founded as a liberal arts institution. And so fun fact, we actually hold the oldest creative writing program in the United States. Here it's our writing seminars program, and it's one of our largest majors here on our campus. And so not only is that a huge part of our Hopkins experience, but we're really distinct in the economic space as well. And so we are one of the universities here in the US that has experiential economics labs and interdisciplinary economics labs. So one of the labs here on campus is our social and poverty and equality lab. And so I knew one of our students here, James, who was doing international studies and economics. And a lot of the research that he was doing in 2020 and into 2021 was thinking about economic policies and housing insecurity in the United States and other major cities across the globe. And so that was something that he did not only with their sociology department, but also with our economists there, as they were thinking through economic inequality, social inequality, and housing insecurity as well. And so I would say we definitely have a lot of strength in our STEM subjects, but our social science students, our humanities students really still receive that top-notch education and that first access to research, whether it's something like James did in our social and poverty and equality labs, or to our Humanities Institute and our rare books collection, to our film and media design centers that we have, where we really have cutting edge research happening in the film spaces. So I would say our students really have the breadth and the depth of the liberal arts as they explore their interests. I'm seeing a question in regards to mentorship from faculty. And so mentorship and faculty support is definitely a huge part of the Hopkins experience. Our average class size is around 7 to 1. And so when you are in those classes, like you are going to be collaborating with Dr. Jones, you're going to be collaborating with so many folks that are really leaders in their fields. Like it's so great being in the Hopkins environment because you genuinely get to know your professors. Like when I was sharing about Axel, like he genuinely got to know his professor and he was in that research team for his entire undergraduate experience. And so our faculty are really intentional with teaching at an undergraduate institution, but also they're intentional with wanting to support the next generation of scholars. And so through just helping them easily access research, but also helping them dig a little bit deeper into their research is something important. In regards to the pre-medical piece, our undergraduate students really have first access to our med campus. So they are there, talking with the physicians, talking with the researchers, the primary investigators on those projects. Like I know one of our students, Elena, she was a neuroscience major with a minor in women and gender and sexuality studies, and she was really interested in women's health. And so she was able to go starting at the second semester of her first year down to our med campus to do some research in women's health. And so you really have that opportunity to get to know those doctors that are at the campus and those primary investigators as well. So I'm seeing computational medicine is required to be a nerd in math to get into Hopkins. So to your first piece around computational medicine, we do offer that as a minor here at Hopkins. And so any student, regardless if they're an engineering student, a pre-health student, a natural science student, any of our students can do that minor. And so that's a minor that's run through our biomedical engineering program. And it is definitely a very popular one on our campus. It's very interdisciplinary across many, not only natural science departments, but also many engineering departments as well. And so we do offer that as a minor. If you're not a minor, we have a ton of research in the computational space that is happening between our medical campus, our BME design labs, and our Hopkins Office for Undergraduate Research. So as a non-minor, you can totally still get involved with that research. And the second piece of that was, do you have to be a math nerd to get into Hopkins? And the answer is no. We're really looking for students that are not only challenging themselves with what's available to them, but we also are looking for students that show that academic strength. But we're also looking for students that go beyond that as well, right? We're looking first to build a community. So we're thinking about, those folks that we're bringing to campus. What are the perspectives? What are the identities? What are the personalities that they're bringing? So again, it's really important that in your essays, you share those things with us because they really help us build our community at Hopkins as well. I see a question in regards to shadowing opportunities for students. Yes, our Like Design Lab works closely with our alumni network and really our Hopkins network to ensure that regardless of which year you are in school, that you have the opportunities to do internships, do job shadowing as well. And our Office of International Students, or OIS, works closely with them as well to ensure that all of our students have access to those opportunities as well. And so I'm seeing another question in regards to acceptance rate for international students. And so every year it's important to us that we build a global minded community, that we have global citizenship represented in our classrooms and in our community. And so over the past few years, we've seen growth all across our applicant pool. And so we have increasingly become more selective across all student populations. So if Hopkins is really becoming and emerging that best match for you, early decision can really be a great option for you as well. So I think we have time for one or two more questions. I know we're about to get to 12 o'clock and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. But I wanted to answer this question around extracurriculars at the university, and you have to have a lot to get in. And so the short answer is no. We understand the context of the times that you all are navigating. COVID has hit so many communities very hard, and the access to extracurriculars has been very limited, and we recognize that. And so first and foremost, if there's anything around your experience with COVID or how it's impacted your time outside of your schoolwork, and you feel comfortable sharing that with us, you can do so on your application, and it will help us better identify your experience and your impacts. And the second part of that is, as I was sharing, really be inclusive with what you share with us. So think about the ways that you may support your family unit. Think about the ways that you may engage with religious practices or cultural practices, or even just commute time that you may have back and forth from school. Those are all important things to share so we know how you're investing your time. And so you don't have to have a laundry list or hold certain leadership titles for it to be impactful. We're really trying to better understand how you invest your time, and we're trying to better understand the impact that you had in those spaces. So one of the ways that I like to share that with students is, let's say you're on a sports team. Let's say you're on your soccer team, but you're not captain of the team, but you identified an opportunity with one of your training coaches to do more training in a particular skill area, and you were able to work with your coach around a new training plan. That's a great area of impact without holding a title. And so again, be inclusive with us with those impacts and how you invest your time. And so I'm seeing a lot of great more questions in the chat. I am going to share my contact information in the chat. right now. So please follow up with me with any additional questions that you may have. So there's my contact information right there. And I'm also going to share words are hard. I'm also going to share a link in the chat to our visit and a connect page. We're going to be running some application workshops. I'm part of our international team who will be doing them specifically for folks that hold international identities and experiences. And so I want to share some information around that right now because some of y'all may be interested. Well, I find that I do want to say, again, I know we're right at that 12 o'clock mark, but here's the Visit and Connect page where you can see all of our programming and everything like that. But I wanted to say, again, thank you all so much for hosting me and having me, and best of luck in all of your future endeavors. And again, thank you, Camp Philippines team, for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maria. I'm sure like I can speak for everyone here when I say that we learned a lot about Johns Hopkins, and like we're definitely going to consider it when we're applying abroad. So to everyone here, if you're interested in staying in touch and learning even more about Johns Hopkins University, just go ahead and fill out the interest form in the chat box right now. And that concludes our session for today. So a big thank you again, once again, to our speaker and all our attendees for joining us. Thank you, everyone.